So that bio-fertilizer would actually go a long way when we talk about food security and all that. So we do look forward to that and hope that we'll see it, as he has said, in a short time, very soon. Well, there's also this issue that I have been longing to talk about, to say the truth. It's about China, the world's largest bilateral lender and the second largest creditor after the World Bank. It has announced that it will waive 23 loans to 17 African countries under its Belt and Road Initiative. Remember, Nigeria is a beneficiary of this initiative. Well, a little bit of background. Reports have it that about 50 developing countries owe China debt worth about 17% of their GDP. Of those 50, 12, like the Maldives and Democratic Republic of Congo and Niger, owe at least a fifth of their nominal GDP to China in loans. In Nigeria's case, as of September 2021, data from the Debt Management Office revealed that Nigeria's debt to China topped $4.1 billion. You want to wonder what it looks like now. Well, will Nigeria make the list to be forgiven? Or what are even the terms? We do know that when it comes to China loans, getting to see the terms can be pretty hard. But the good thing is that STARS has carried out research on China loans, and some of those things we don't get to talk about or see easily. So we have Gbemisola Alonge. She's a senior development analyst with STARS now to share those findings with us. Hi, Gbemisola. Good morning.
Hi, Ini. Thanks for having me.
I must tell you that I'm personally so happy to talk about this because we've heard a lot about China loans. We don't know the terms and the condition. And then sometimes we hear of the threat, or they're going to take over a facility or in a country, So, STARS, please tell us, what have you found about the terms and condition of China loans?
So first thing I'd like to acknowledge or just state is China, whenever we hear of Chinese loans, it's very hardly, it's almost never that it's the Chinese government giving a country loans. So it is usually loans through banks, through credit finance companies, through multilateral organizations. So for instance, if you hear China is giving out loans, it's most likely from the China Export Import Bank, or the China Development Bank and things like that. So just like these banks and these organizations act just like every other, development bank in any other part of the world, or any other, credit trade organization, or any other financing company, really. So for them, most times, these loan agreements are usually private, right? And even for most, even Western creditors, right, the terms and conditions of the agreements are usually private. Now, best practice is that they actually, inform the country and disclose as much as they can, things like the existence of the loans. I mean, people in the country should know that the country has taken loans from China. They should also know how much these loans are. They should know what the terms, like what happens if you're unable to meet your debt agreement, if you're unable to pay as when due. These are the things that should be made public. However, there are situations where they are not, right? So there are situations where some countries do not even know, like people in the country do not know that they have taken on loans. But then this happens based on who the creditor is. So if it's a private organization. So although, like I mentioned before, that there's some Chinese creditors that are very popular, the China Development Bank, Sinosure, and some other China Import Bank, but then they're also unofficial private lenders. So someone wants to build a road in a particular part of their country, and they get funding from a private organization in China. But it's not really, because and then so the creditor determines how private or not the loans are. So the creditor determines what factors you keep out of the public eye, and what factors you actually put out. So for instance, Nigeria, if you go to the Debt Management Office website, anytime you go there, you would see how much Nigeria is owing to China, and you'd see who Nigeria is owing to as well. You know whether it's the Export Import Bank or it's the China Development Bank or whoever Nigeria as a country is owing. You would know that. But in some countries, this is not the case, and I think it's mostly because of the country. As it's not really China as much as the country. We've even had situations where like Western lenders. There have been cases like the Credit Suisse situation for Mozambique, where the country did not even know that they were owing a French investment bank money. So it's not just China that actually decides to be private. It's worth noting also that China sometimes, some Chinese lenders tend to be more private than others for reasons best known to them, but they would only be as private as the borrower country allows them to. If you come to me and like you want to give me money, or if I go to meet you to lend me some money and you ask me to keep some of the terms private, like I would only keep it as private. The lender would only keep it as private as the debtor wants to keep it. So it still, boils down to the country that you're lending to.
Well, we did have the impression. We did have the impression that it was, the lender that determines the terms, and so if they ask for that, because I mean, the other time there was a country, an African country, that had the issue of infrastructure being taken over by China or not. Do you know how that story ended? Because even in that one, it seems the terms were not made known, or at least not to the citizens. So that's why when that news came, everybody feasted on it.
Yes, so I'm guessing you're talking about Rwanda or Uganda.
Uganda.
Yeah. So there was a time when Uganda, there was some speculation that China was going to take over their airports, their international airports, because they were unable to meet their loan agreements. Now, the thing is, one of the terms, or one of the major characteristics, and you were right in saying that the lender determines to a large extent what the terms and conditions of the loans are. But then it's a negotiation, it's an agreement, right? If I don't want to keep some things private, like you can't force me to keep it private, right? So they reach an amicable negotiation or an amicable resolution based on back and forth that goes on. So for Uganda,
Oh wow, seems okay.
Ooh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. You were frozen for a bit.
Oh, okay. So for Uganda, they actually debunked, like China came, the government of China and like the lender, the Chinese lender at the time actually came to debunk the myth that they were actually not taking over the airports. And even the Ugandan government did as well. The thing is, with many loans, right, especially Chinese loans, they're mostly securitized. And what that means is the debtor country usually puts down a collateral, either an asset that's existing or a future income from mineral resources sales. So an example would be an oil producing country can, set up an account where they pay, proceeds from their crude oil sales into the accounts. And then China has access to that account in the event that they default on their loans. So this account is just collateral. And then some countries also put down assets, right? They put down, some of their maybe, and they can put down an airport. I'm not saying that this was the case for Uganda, but it's possible that they do that just as a form of collateral. Now, it's very rare. There are very rare cases where China actually proceeds to take on this collateral. What happens if the country is unable to meet their loans or meet their debt payments is that they reach an agreement to restructure the loans. So what China usually does is restructure the loans. If it was supposed to be a 10-year loan, they can extend the time, they can extend the period to maybe 20 years or more. They can sell, they can repackage the loan, they can increase the interest rates, they can give some moratorium so you don't have to pay for some time. There's a lot of restructuring that actually goes on before China actually, or the lender actually decides to take on the assets. So even though, those are like, the terms would state that, you have to put down something as collateral. Now, whether or not you disclose that you've actually put that down as collateral, it's up to you, the lender, debtor and whatever the lender wants you to do. But then it's very rare again. Like these are just like speculations based on what the terms actually say, but it's rare to see a situation where China actually goes on to take on ownership of these assets.
All right. Well, so help us. Thank you for helping us to clear that. Then the Belt and Road Initiative, we know it's a wide initiative, when it comes to Africa, even Nigeria, there was a part of it. But in the midst of all the harsh economic realities, at a point we heard China wanted to pause it, and all of that. But where is that now? And I don't think that's by the government, right?
Yes, yes. So it's the Belt and Road Initiative. It's an initiative by the Chinese government to expand, its transportation links across the world, to allow for ease of trade, exports, imports, and all that. And it's signed by over 140 countries across the world. And what usually happens is China basically reaches an agreement with them, supports them with funding, to build whatever transportation infrastructure, whether it's the rail lines or ports or roads within the countries, just to ease movement of people and trade across these countries. Now, in Nigeria, so far Nigeria has benefited significantly. Some of the rail lines that have been rehabilitated, the Lagos Ibadan rail line, Kaduna Abuja, different rail lines and different train infrastructures and rail infrastructure that has happened in Nigeria has been under this Belt and Road Initiative. Now, sometime in between 2020 and 2021, as a result of a lot of countries entering into debt distress, China had announced that it would pause on financing some projects in Africa. However, this seemed like a temporary pause. It didn't seem like something that would go on for a while. And that's because, many African countries are nearing debt defaults now. And China has, in 2020 and 2021, there was already some debt restructuring for countries like Rwanda, Zambia, and some other countries. Even this year, China has offered debt relief to Zambia and some other countries, the 17 countries that you mentioned earlier. So it's very understandable if they want to take a minute and pause on, funding projects, especially because these countries are going through a rough patch right now, and repayment of these loans would be harder than usual. So that's most likely what's causing the pause. However, there's no announcement that they would stop funding at all. Right now, the Belt and Road Initiative is still very much alive, but they might just take a step back just because of the current fiscal situation in many countries.
So do you see Nigeria making that list of 17 countries that may be forgiven?
So the thing is, the loans that are forgiven are loans that were due in 2021, and they are interest-free loans. So the interest-free loans under the Belt and Road Initiative are some of them are loans that have already been restructured. So I mentioned before that when a country is unable to pay back their loans, what China has done in the past is actually step in and sometimes even eliminate interest rates. Say, these loans are now interest-free, and extend the payment period. Nigeria has not defaulted on any of its loans, either to China or to any other creditor at the moment. So it's unlikely that a loan that was due in 2021, we would still be holding on to it and not have paid back. So because the terms, we don't know which countries are beneficiaries. We don't even know what the value of this debt relief is yet. But based on what we know, the debt relief is for loans, interest-free loans that were due in 2021. It's unlikely that Nigeria will be a beneficiary because we haven't defaulted on any loans. We haven't restructured any loans with China either. So I don't think Nigeria is. In fact, I don't know, but it's possible. It's highly unlikely that Nigeria is part of.
Yeah, but when you talk
countries.
about countries defaulting and all of that, we do know the debt stock of Nigeria now is really high. What do countries stand to lose? Because what if a country decides, let me just default so that I can get forgiven? What do countries stand to lose when they default their debt payment?
So it's for a country to decide to willingly default. that's no longer a default. That's their own willfulness to not to default and to default on the loans. And what happens in such a situation is they actually get penalized for it. So in between 1994 and 1998, the Abacha administration actually willingly refused to pay Paris Club loans. So we had the money, but they just refused to pay. And that was because it was some sort of retaliation to sanctions on Nigeria based on like human rights violations and things like that. What this resulted in is in those 4 years, as a result of not paying those loans, there was an accumulation of interest payments, there was penalties for not paying, and everything amounted to $4 billion. So that's what happens when a country willingly decides not to pay. You would be sanctioned, like you'd be saddled with a lot of penalties. Interest payments would keep accruing on those loans, and you would just keep accumulating more debt. So the debt would not go. However, for many countries now, what we've seen is that there has been some decision to negotiate these loans. An example is Zambia. Zambia has been in a serious debt distress throughout the year, and they have sat down with their creditors. They have sat down with, they've met with the IMF and World Bank to discuss with the Paris Club. They've met with China as well. They have gotten to the point where they're like, you know what, we cannot service these loans anymore. We don't have the money. So please, if you can eliminate some, if you can waive some, that would be great. If you can restructure some, that would be great. Another impact of this, so this is not them deciding not to pay, but it's them actually reaching an amicable agreement, which in many cases they actually reach, and some of the debt is actually waived, like in the case of Zambia. However, what then happens is because you have branded yourself, it's almost like a communication, like you're telling the world that I can't pay any loans, so don't even give me loans. What happens is the number of creditors that these countries are exposed to becomes a lot smaller. So loaning money is an investment. People decide to give you money with the hopes that they would get interest in return at a later date, right? So when countries actually come out and say that they're in a debt distress, they can't pay loans anymore, they're defaulting on loans, they eliminate the number of countries that will be willing to give them loans. That reduces, the list reduces. They then have to rely on the likes of the IMF and World Bank, to help them. When the IMF comes to give you money, they come with terms and conditions. They expect that the loans that they're giving you they expect the country to, implement some fiscal restructuring or fiscal measures that would prevent them from being in another debt distress in the short term. So what they do is they ask you to sort of reduce government spending, remove subsidies and things like that. And this obviously hurts the country in the short term, but in the long term, it's good for fiscal discipline. And I mean, that means that the country would actually have, so that's another downside to actually branding yourself as being in a debt distress or something like that. So the country would have to, take these measures. Another thing is the country actually gets excluded from the capital markets. So one of the ways that we lend, especially in Nigeria, for instance, is through the capital market, the international capital market, through euro bonds and things like that. For instance, Nigeria's current debt stock is 40% of our current debt stock is owed to the capital market. So when you come out and say you can no longer lend, and capital market is basically like institutional investors, investment banks in the US, in the UK, giving you money. They're all about their profits. They're not in the mood to, they're not like the IMF. They don't care much for your fiscal discipline and all that. They just want their money, right? So one of the ways that they encourage investors to, invest in interest in your euro bonds and buy your euro bonds and lend you money is through credit risk ratings, right? When your credit risk rating is low, if you say you can no longer pay debt back, your credit risk rating will be low. And when your credit risk rating will be low, at some point, your bonds will become junk bonds and you'll just be eliminated from the capital market. Nobody wants to buy a loan or wants to buy a bond that they are not sure they would get
They'll
back.
get some money.
So
Yes, so that's true. I mean, because when you talk about the condition that IMF will give, I think Egypt is in a dilemma now because they're being asked to devalue their currency again. I think they just did it in June. So, and that's one of the conditions they are giving them if they are going to be able to get anything from IMF. But that was very enlightening. Thank you so much, Gbemisola Alonge,
thanks for having me,
Senior
Amy.
Development Analyst with STAIRS. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Amy. You too.